Alrighty, and we are live. How's it going, Mets and overall baseball fans? Thank you guys all so much for chiming in for the latest post-game show here on WardyNYM, as it only took a 24-hour span for the Metropolitans' 2023 win streak to come to an end. But in all seriousness, this was a ball game that was led by pitching and great defense in certain parts, especially that infield for both respective teams, not on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, it was home runs or nothing today, and the Marlins had 2 home runs. The Mets had 1. That was solely the difference in this matchup, headlined by Jorge Soler, who single-handedly won this game for the Miami Marlins. Miami deserved this win full through and through. As a Mets fan, I'm not going to sit here and act biasly and say that, oh, the Marlins were given this win or anything. No, the Mets didn't show up to play today offensively as a whole. No one was hitting other than Starling Marte until the final 2 innings when Daniel Vogelback had something to say about it, and Pete Alonso hit a bomb that was a little too late. So we're going to be getting into the nitty-gritty, everything that you need to know about innings 1 through 9 in this matchup. But before I do, I want to give a big shout out to everyone first chiming in the show. Thank you guys all so much for being here. If you're watching the live show right now, appreciate you guys. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. If you guys enjoy consistent Mets content covering every single Metropolitan game for the most part, we're going to be covering over 100 games this year, so make sure to hit those buttons. And of course, make sure to let me know your raw reactions to tonight's loss in the comments here in the live stream and the comments for people on replay. I want to know what's raw reactions, guys. The sky is falling. The season has ended. I'm going to say it now to get ahead of all you Mets fans, you schmucks out there that truly do believe that already. I mean, hey, we got 160 more games to go this season. We're going to be facing at minimum what? I'd imagine the Mets are going to have between 60, 70 plus losses this year, right? So just in that hypothetical, we're going to have to buckle up and get ready for a lot of loss discussions. I'm not going to sit here and complain much. There are things I didn't like for sure on the offensive side of the ball. Pitching wise, David Pearson was anything but perfect today. Hard contact, but it was a very standard David Pearson type start. Gives you just under 6 innings, has a lot of hard contact, but only surrenders 1 earned run. We'll get into that a little bit further. Defensively, Francisco Lindor led the way, looking like a platinum glove out there already. Starling Marte, not so much. Really had a bad hiccup there that we'll get to shortly in right field. Thankfully, it didn't hurt the Mets today, and I will give Marte credit. He was the guy that only had 2 hits for the Mets today. So, all in all, this is not a game that needs to be broken down, this is not a game that needs to be broken down too long, right? We'll probably go 25, a half hour, whatever we're going to do. I mean, there's not much more that needs to be said. This just wasn't a fun game. If you're a Mets fan, if you're watching, there were those flashes on the defensive side of the ball in the infield, and David Pearson being a wizard getting out some of those jams. But aside from that, the high moments for the Mets were few and far in between. So again, appreciate you guys all chiming in. Sean, great member, says Lindor needs to stop swinging at every pitch. Again, it's the second game of the year. I'm going to refrain from really commenting too much about any player's approach right now. Naturally, in my gut, I want to say Brett Baty should be starting. I was joking, putting on Twitter today, Brett Baty's first at-bat of the day in Syracuse in AAA. Of course, he rips a 106-mile-per-hour opposite field double. Why? Because Brett Baty is a stud, and I want him on this team. Having said that, however, we know that this Mets offense has flaws. It's going to have its ups and downs. Got to give credit where credit's due. Jesus Luzardo, who is such an underrated pitcher in the league. This Marlins rotation can easily go down as one of the better ones in all baseball this year, headlined by Sandy Alcantara, who the Mets got on yesterday. Jesus, though, especially as a lefty, we all know the Mets are so Jekyll and Hyde against southpaws, as is. Luzardo was touching 97, 98 on the gun. He had a Scherzer start today, quite literally, where he was cruising through 5 innings and then got himself in a jam in the 6th, and he wasn't even able to finish the 6th inning because of that. But no less, let's get into this ball game now, shall we? Again, appreciate you guys being in here. Or guess what? Remember complaining all offseason about Mets addressing the hitting lefty problem? They did nothing. This is what we get. Pat, thank you for the donation. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. This is pretty much the same exact team as last year. The only real difference is what the Mets could do with their internal options throughout the year, and that is why I hope that it's not going to be too long before we see the Batys and/or Vientoses, and then eventually Alvarez, in which he did have himself an RBI and a stolen base today. Shout out to you, Francisco. Again, if you guys like watching minor league baseball, I highly implore you to watch the AAA Syracuse Mets this year. You can watch it through the MLB.TV app now because they signed a deal with the minor leagues, which is awesome. But yeah, be locked in the minor leagues. So hopefully we see these guys up sooner than later. I know for all we know, Mets are going to rake against Edward Cabrera tomorrow, or they're going to get no hit. I mean, Edward Cabrera is another young pitching stud. So we'll see. But enough of me dilly-dallying. Let's get into this ball game. Let's get in the nitty-gritty. What happened in it? Nitty-gritty, or however you want to say it. I know someone commented yesterday. I always say nitty-gritty, but maybe it's a nitty-gritty. Whatever it is, let's just get into this ball game, okay? Because this is not how I want to spend my Friday night. I know that this will be the first of many Friday nights this year that I probably won't come out too happy with the results of a ball game. Larry, thank you so much for the franchise membership. Really appreciate that. But Grant, good friend of mine, Jenny Metz, appreciate you being here. All my loyal members and followers, thank you guys for being here live or on replay. The game starts out with Brandon Nimmo looking like he had himself an infield single. We all watched it. Harrison Freeland, who's the replay guy for the Mets, is exactly why the Mets were at an elite level. I mean, here were the Mets, and here were every other team in baseball last year when challenging plays. So it was originally rolled an out for Nimmo. They did the replay review, and the replay review is a little bit different this year with challenges. They're trying to work it at a faster pace, even though they still took at least 5 effing minutes just for them to get the call wrong. I know it was close, so maybe they were arguing it was inconclusive. That argument I could understand more with this play. However, there was one camera angle that clearly showed Nimmo's toe on the bag before the ball hit the mitt of Yuli Gurriel, the now first-time first baseman for the Miami Marlins, former teammate of Justin Verlander during their time in Houston. So it wasn't overturned. It stayed the same. So the Mets are now 0-1, surprisingly, to start the year with challenges. But when I tell you the Mets are going to be elite again this year with challenges, I mean, Harrison Freeland is a man possessed when it comes to replay review. He wasn't at fault here. It's unfortunate it didn't go the Mets' way this time. So that's how the Mets game started, with something not going in their way, and then that would be the course of the entirety of this ball game. One thing that I will emphasize is I'm not trying to be that stickler that points out every single time you see a ball that, say, is a borderline strike or just below. Jesus Luzardo got a lot of calls today that were just below out of the zone, and David Pearson didn't. So that was a little pet peeve that I personally had, a little issue rather, with the umpires. But again, it is what it is, especially Miami. They're at home. I'm not shocked by this. And again, let's see. Someone said here in the chat, why don't you sound optimistic? You keep saying you expect a lot of losses. I mean, yes, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that the Mets are going to lose games this year. That I am very optimistic about this season, but to suggest that the Mets aren't going to at least lose between 60 and 70 plus games this year, like, what? It's a normal baseball season. If the Mets have 100 wins this year, they have 62 losses, right? If the Mets have 90 wins this year, then they have 70-plus losses, as long as I'm doing my math somewhat correctly, right? Like, this is the first of many losses for the Metropolitans this year. That's why I'm not going on a rant here, freaking out about the first game. We got a lot of games down the stretch. Those are the games where I'm really going to be more animated. Games where, especially against the heater, like, for me, I'm just, once we get to the second half of the season, especially, we'll see where the Mets are at the first half. All games are important. I'm aware of that. But it's about, are the Mets going to get out of some of the issues that they had last year with the type of funks that they went in offensively? Or, the stretches of just, say, getting great pitching, but not getting enough consistent offense. If the Mets, again, go through the ebbs and flows, which is expected, then fine. But if they go on a real bad tear, then that's where I'm really going to start to, drill into them. Even if it's within the first month or two at baseball, it doesn't matter the time of year, honestly. If you have a bad losing stretch or you're just not looking consistent, I'm going to call you out on it, because the Mets have high expectations this year, and for good reason. But now let's get back into this, and no worries, Marco. I appreciate the comment. Let's get into the ball game. We get to the bottom of the first because the Mets do nothing in the top of the first. Jesus Luzardo, like I said, through the first 5 innings, absolutely carved the Mets up. What else can you do other than tip the cap if you're a Mets fan and rant about it as a Mets fan, not happy with the offense? So Arias, the reigning AL batting champ, gets a walk. Segura with a double play ball. Great, beautiful move by Alonso to get Lindor, to get Arias down on the tag, right on the booty there. And just like that, that's an easy double play turn. Again, Francisco Lindor looked phenomenal defensively today. He looks locked in. The platinum glove, hopefully this year, would be great. Not that I care much about Gold Glove, Platinum Glove, because when you give one of the worst defensive outfielders in baseball last year, if not the worst, in Juan Soto Gold Glove, it means very little to me. I mean, talk about that reputation ruin. I mean, whoever runs that, Rawlings, right, whoever it is, they should be ashamed of doing that just because of name when it comes to Juan Soto and who he is. Great hitter, but, it was absolute cheeks last year defensively. I'm getting on a tangent. We get to the second inning, however, because nothing else happens there. Pardon me, that Marte misses an easy catch there in right field. He missed it somehow. It was coming straight, and they just died on last second. They gift Garrett Cooper a triple out of it. Should be an error, should be fixed. Thankfully, nothing happened out of it. David Pearson, again, would have some shaky innings for the majority of this game, but would come out of the majority of it as well unscathed, aside from Jorge Soler ripping an absolute solo bomb. This guy hit roughly 50 nukes just a couple of years ago, so I'm not too shocked by this, right? Soler trying to stay healthy this year for Miami in his second-year stint with them. Rips a solo shot to give Miami the early 1-0 lead, and they would continue with that lead for the vast entirety of the game. Garcia would have grabbed out. Obviously, Garcia trying to have a bounce-back year. Numbers will tell you that he will, because he goes up and down. If you look at his numbers, he'll have a bad year, a good year, a bad year, a good year. He's expected to have a good year, so I guess we'll see. So far, not so much. However, Garcia would have ground out. Yuli Gurriel would have base single, his first as a Miami Marlin. Fortes, the catcher, would an opposite field single. John Birdie strikes out, and I despise John Birdie. So anytime he has a lack of success, I'm in favor for it as a man who knows how much this guy usually kills the Mets. Talk about a pest, that is John Birdie. Arias would have ground out, would then end the inning. We advance to the third inning. Cooper with an opposite field single. Jazz with a strikeout. Soler with an out thanks to a beautiful leaping grab. Errol Lindor, not Air Jordan, Errol Lindor with the beautiful snag all the way up there. Got them bunny hops, baby. Just like my bunnies in my room right now, Gigi and Stormy. If you know, you know. And that'll do her for a 1-2-3. Not 1-2-3, but after Cooper's oppo single was in a 1-2-3 inning afterwards. We get to the bottom of the third with one out. Starling Marte with an opposite field single. Marte was the story of the offense for the vast majority of this game until we got to the eighth inning, and then he was out trying to steal second base, but thankfully Marte McFly would make up for it a little bit later. And I'm curious, guys, everyone, I want to know your opinions in the live chat. Let me know right now. And for people on replay in the comments, how many stolen bases do you think Starling Marte is going to have this season? Because given the pitch clock and everything, not only pitch clock, but the amount of times you can throw to first base and how having these bases enlarged, I think Starling Marte this year is going to steal 34 bases. That is my prediction. Could even be more. Wouldn't shock me. Again, Marte at his best is an absolute stolen base machine, but I think in hand when making sure he stays healthy and, you know, and what are his legs going to look like throughout the entirety of the year, I'm going to go with a comfortable 34 stolen bags. Sean MD says 70. I don't know what you're smoking, but I want some of that. That is fantastic. All right, let me know your predictions in the chat. 162. You guys crack me up. When's the pod coming out, Wardy? Once the Marlins series is concluded. We came out with our recent podcast previewing the season and predicted the day before opening day on the channel, so make sure to check that out if you haven't already. Now we get to the fourth inning. After Lindor had a walk there in the third, that'll do it. In the fourth inning, David Pearson finally had a 1-2-3 inning, including one strikeout. Mark Canha with a walk, and then a McNeil double play. Nothing happening there in the fifth. In the bottom of the fifth, John Birdie would have base single. And got a lot to say about John Birdie, but I'll hold it. I'll bite my tongue. Arise with a bunt single. Segura with a strikeout. Cooper with an infield single, but thankfully McNeil drills out that schmuck birdie at home. Alonso just misses the grab in between first and second. It goes to McNeil. McNeil with a beautiful relay throw there to home and plenty of time there to get the tag in John Birdie, who is that speedster, and that'll then do her for the fifth. We get to the sixth with two outs. Brandon Nimmo points to the sky thanking Christ himself because he got a walk. Starling Marte with his second opposite field base single of the day. Then he would go on and do his Marte McFly by stealing second base. 2 games into the year, and he already has 2 stolen bags. He is on pace for 162. So maybe you're not as outlandish as you thought there, Scoob in the chat. If you know, you know. We then advance forward in that inning. Lindor with a walk. You think the Mets are finally going to score. They got guys on base with 2 outs. It's bases juiced for Chargot, who comes in for Jesus Luzardo, whose final line today would be 5.2 innings of 2 hit balls, 0 earned runs, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts, and 91 pitches. Luzardo was very sharp. Again, both these lefties, struggle with the command a little bit, but overall, Luzardo was very sharp today. Got to give the kid credit. Or I shouldn't even say kid. He's probably older than me, right? Even though I know he's young. Alonso flies out to end the inning. And it was a nice barreled ball by Alonso too, but it didn't get into the gap. It was a rope right to Jazz Chisholm there in center, and that was an unfortunate one. So the Mets leave bases juice stranded as we head to the bottom of the sixth. Tommy Hunter comes in as David Pearson's final line is 5 innings of 8 hit ball, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts, 1 home run allowed on 84 pitches. David Pearson starts his 2023 campaign, a guy who wasn't even expected to be in this rotation until Jose Quintana went down with his rib injury and the strain, and then, of course, the lesion, which I'm happy that they found and got surgery on. I'm wishing him well. He now has a 1.8 ERA to start his 2023 campaign. Tommy Hunter, though, I mean, talk about unsung hero. If I didn't focus on a certain someone offensively today, Tommy Hunter would have easily been my player of the game, and you could even argue that he still should be. If we had a top 5 up right now, he would be in the top 3 for sure. Tommy Hunter, how you doing? Soler rips a single off of him, but that's all she wrote. He would then go on to retire the next 5 batters that he would face in both the 6th and the 7th inning. Tommy Hunter, in his first relief appearance this season, who cracks the bullpen late for the Mets this year, and 2 scoreless innings, only allows out 1 hit, 0 walks, 0 runs, 0 strikeouts. Tommy Hunter, love you in the pen. How you doing, baby? We then get to the 8th inning with 1 out. Daniel Vogelbach pinch hitting here for the schmuck and Tommy Pham, who was useless. Pardon me, was it Tommy Pham or Canna? It was actually, no, I'm wrong. It was Nito, my bad. They pinch hit for Nito today to have Narvaez then come in. Either way, Pham started today and left. Wasn't good. Not surprised. Canna and DH wasn't good either. Vast majority of the Mets offense wasn't good today. It is what it is. No less, Vogelbach coming in to pinch it with 1 out, rips a high fly. You think it's an out, but it's a double because Jazz Chisholm still getting acclimated there to center field, playing too deep on Vogie's high fly ball. Drops just in time to be out of the reach of Jazz Chisholm. He has the legs going. I said this yesterday. Trey Turner, who? The speedster is Hoagie Vogie. Get used to it, baby. He's in there with a double. And then Timmy LaCastro, the pinch run god himself, comes in. Brandon Nimmo, unfortunately, would fly out, and Starling Marte would then fly out, thanks to a phenomenal diving snag in right by Jorge Soler, who had a phenomenal catch earlier in the game to rob Pete Alonso, what would have easily been a double. Jorge Soler, who's known for being putrid defensively, came out today with not only the bat with multiple hits, including a solo home run, but phenomenal defense, too. Again, there's nothing you could do about it besides just be like, damn, like, you really did well. Gotta tip the cap to you, Jorge. So that'll do her then for the top of the 8th. We get to the bottom of the 8th. John Curtis making his Mets debut here for his first official outing of the 2023 season. And with 1 out, Jazz Chisholm, who has yet to record a hit this year, takes him deep without question. A no-doubter to right, and it's a 2-0 Miami Marlins lead. We then head to the 9th with 1 out. Pete Alonso finally steps up with a solo bomb, his first of the year for Big Meat Pete, Polar Bear Pete, Pistol Pete, however you want to call him. That is what transpires there, and that'll do her for the game. The Mets don't get much offense at all. They had 4 hits today, those schmucks, right, to the 10 hits of the Marlins. The Mets had an expected batting average of 226 to the Marlins 274. There just was not a lot of positives in today's game as a whole. And before we get into breaking down the lineup briefly, just want to point out the obvious. What was going to be Marte, and you could still argue, you could even do the same arguments for Tommy Hunter. My player of the game is, yes, Pete Alonso, the only guy to provide offense today. Granted, Marte should have had an RBI opposite field single for sure of the day if Soler didn't rob him, but Alonso gets his first of the year. I had one guy comment on Twitter, which I thought was hilarious, calling this a garbage time home run. Let me know in the chat, live or in replay, if you guys agree with that assessment. I'm sorry. If you're down only 2 runs and Alonso hits a bomb, how is that garbage time? If the Mets were, losing a blowout, say 5, 6, 7-0, and then Alonso hits a home run with, say, 2 outs in the 9th, I get it. But this was a close game. And if John Curtis didn't give up that nuke to Jazz, it's a tied ball game. So I disagree with that. And furthermore, I'm actually impressed with this home run by Pete Alonso because he hit it off a Puck, who they, of course, acquired in the offseason for a J.J. Bleday, I think it was, the outfielder that got traded. I think he's an outfielder that got traded to the A's. Puck is a flame-throwing southpaw, and that's the exact type of profile that Alonso usually struggles against. So how in God's name is this a garbage time home run? If you think that way, I don't get it. It's garbage because he didn't when the bases was loaded, but he barreled the ball well when the bases were loaded. If he say struck out or did a silly ground out, I would believe it. I would understand you more. But even when he had that deep fly out to Jazz, it was a good barreled ball. It just didn't get in the gap. It's not going to get in the gap every time. Be grateful that he at least made contact, and it was good contact. It wasn't bad. It had a nice crack off the bat. So yeah, I'm not calling that garbage time. I think that's asinine, and that'll be the first of many little rants that we go on this year for sure. But yeah, Mets. Let's see. There we go. There's a ticker. I was like, where's the score? Hope you guys like the scoreboard too. It will be ever changing in the next coming days. It's going to look cleaner than what it does. We're going to have some more information provided on it, but I will be providing live scores for you guys of every game, just like that you'll be seeing on TV right down there below. So I hope you guys like that as another little feature. Again, it will be looking prettier in the coming days though, because this is basically the beta version. So in the next coming days, it will look sharper. I'll even have it so you guys can see the bases of, who's on and how many outs, all that jazz. No pun intended. Like, we're really upping the ante this year. Let's see. We're just Mets fan angry by the loss. I get it. I understand. Let me get to some donations because I see some of those, and then we'll advance forward in the show. Appreciate my roughly 200 live viewers beating here. Continue smashing that like and subscribe button. Means a lot. We're going to be wrapping the show up in the next 10 minutes. Again, not a long live show tonight when the Mets lose 2-1. The plan is to be live tomorrow. There is somewhat of a chance that we will not be live tomorrow, but the goal is to be, and we will also be live, of course, on Sunday. So tomorrow, a slight question mark. Sunday, for sure, we'll be live. And yeah, that's about it. Just going forward, letting you guys all know, if say this was a 1-0 loss in a game where there was like no positives and it wasn't like it was a game of, intensity, say against a rival or something, those are games specifically that you can look out for this season where you shouldn't be shocked if I say don't cover. Where if there's no one going to have any interest in, like, there's just nothing going right, there were no if there's very little to break down in a game, then those will be the games I refrain most from covering. I will be discussing losses plenty, as I said earlier in the show already, but just as, a fair warning, don't be shocked if you see me say I'm not going to cover a 1-0 loss today when the Mets had nothing offensively and it was just one of those fluke games, right? If say they were really hot before then or something along those lines. So just putting out there, and weekend games as well are the other times that you will not see post-game shows on a consistent basis, but throughout the week, Monday through Friday, they will be a constant every week throughout the entirety of the 2023 season. JV, thank you for the donation. He says, expect a lot more of these 3-hit 1-0 games. It's the same offense, just without Ruff and Aquin. It will get better. I will say that. I definitely think that the Mets offensive potential is still better than last year in a lot of ways, including the speed element. I really think that that's going to help them. They might not be a fast team, but having Marte, having Lindor, and having LeCastro as well will play into their favor. It's more so of how long are the Mets going to wait to bring in the likes of Abate and or Vientos and Alvarez. Those are the guys I'm looking to watch most in hopes that, they're going to be on this roster sooner than later. But again, could be a month, could be a couple months. We'll find out. Larry, thank you for the donation. The New York Yankees can start a rookie at second base at the beginning of the year. Why can't Mets do the same? Like Yankees do, same stop, baby kid. Here's the thing. The Yankees are usually like the last team to be playing their top prospects, so you got to give them credit for finally playing Volpe. And I will be talking about Volpe in the near future, as starting I put on the community tab already, but next week we will start to discuss more on one of our partnerships on the channel throughout the vast majority of the year. And I do have Volpe factored into that I'll share next week, so stay tuned for that one. But yeah, I mean, when you saw Volpe, when you saw Jordan Walker, when you saw a lot of these young kids crack their opening day roster, deservedly so after killing it in spring, that disheartened me more with Beatty, because Beatty balled out, kicked absolute what in spring, and here he is still not starting the year over at Eduardo Escobar, who, again, I love Eddie as a person, I love his personality. I think that Beatty would give you more production right from the jump this year, and I will stand by that. And I think it'll further prove my right as we go through the first month plus of the season. But again, I hope Eddie proves me wrong. Even then, Eddie at DH I'm fine with too. I just want Beatty to get reps. But I digress. We're gonna have these rants a lot this year, I know. Let's see. I think we'd go 2-0 if we had Beatty, Vientos, Alvarez. We'll never know. We'll never know until they're actually on this roster, right? Nick says, Worry, when did Jorge Soler turn into a Gold Glove right fielder? As soon as he's decided to play the Mets. It's just there's no rationality to it. Soler is usually absolute cheeks defensively. He's a standalone DH, and today he looked like the best thing since sliced bread in right field. That's the start of the MLB season for you. Hashtag Espar, don't worry, buddy. September is only 5 months away. That's a funny comment. I'm not going to lie. Thank you for that donation, JV. I appreciate that. Ramon, how are you? First of all, be honest. We are fans like you, okay? We are the same thing like last year. Escobar now, fam. Canna all sucks, my friend. Canna doesn't suck. I am not believing that for 1 second. Canna was very sharp for the Mets last year. Just because he hasn't done anything the first 2 regular season games does not mean that he will not be productive. I am against Mark Canna slander until proven otherwise. He had a career-high season last year, had just under 20 home runs, and had big home runs down the stretch in key rivalry games. I will not sit here for Canna slander. I'm fed up with people throwing him in that mix. Escobar is justified because he didn't do a lick of anything until the month of September. Again, great time to finally show up heading into playoffs. Don't get me wrong, Eddie. But aside from that, we could have used that production the previous 5 months of the season. And then Pham is Tommy Pham. I mean, we'll see how much of a leash he gets too. Speaking of the devil, Dave, member for 5 months. Appreciate you, Dave. Love you, buddy. He says, Pham is a waste of a roster spot. Yeah, again, Mets fans not holding back in game 2 of the season. Am I surprised? No, I am not. Again, we'll just see. We'll see what happens. So my question to everybody, the Mets have 2 more games left this series. They have a 4-game set against Miami to start the season, right? What is your prediction for this opening series? Do you think the Mets are going to win the series? Do you think they're going to split the series? Do you think they're going to lose a series? Whatever your thoughts are, make sure to let me know. You need to change the names of these memberships and pictures. Pictures, I know that's not as much of a rush because I kind of like the old school look from my old logo, but yes, the name is what I still need to change. It should say Mad Max membership, but instead it still says DeGoat. And again, I apologize. I thought I edited it. I said this yesterday, but I guess I didn't. So that's on me. Okay. Yeah, give me your predictions, guys. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think the Mets are still going to win this series? Do you think they're going to tie it? Do you think they're going to lose? Personally, my opinion, biasly, I'm obviously going to say that they're going to win. But honestly, I think that there's a very rational reality that they will start this series by splitting it. Edward Cabrera worries me tomorrow. That is for sure. Trevor Rogers, if he's going to be like what he was last year, then I like the Mets' chances for sure. And again, Cabrera, when he's on, man, he's disgusting. I think Edward Cabrera is so good that he has potential to be Sandy Alcantara light this year. I really feel that way. He is an absolutely ridiculous flame-throwing right-hander that is really coming into his own. So I'm curious to see how he matches up with the Mets tomorrow. Again, you got Kodai Senga on the bump for the series finale on Sunday. Tomorrow's Tyler McGill. Big drip, baby. We'll see how he does. But yeah, as I hope the Mets win the series, obviously, but it wouldn't shock me in the slightest if they split. What would be disheartening is if they lose, because there's, at the end of the day, as good as Marlins pitching is, no excuse to lose a series to the Miami Marlins. Can't tell me otherwise. We look terrible today. It still came down to the 9th inning. Yeah, that's a very good point, Scoop. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And that's exactly why I expect the Mets to still win the series, like I hope they do. Trevor Rogers is lefty, so we'll win tomorrow, lose Sunday. See, we had that thought process, but the Mets actually beat up on Rogers fairly well last year, too, so that's not necessarily true. And this was Trevor Rogers in the beginning of 2021 that I would agree with you more. He was an all-star and then got injury plagued, and he has him in the same starter in the past year and a half, so we'll see on that front. But with that being said, guys, we are going to be wrapping up the live show here in a minute, so let's go through the lineup before I get out of here for you guys. Again, continue smashing that like and subscribe on if you're new. We're greatly appreciated. Help us get to a couple 100 likes by any time you're watching. This really does mean a lot. WardyNYM started the game off 0 for 3. Nothing happening there. It was great yesterday, though. What a walk. Starling Marte, 2 for 4. Best offensive player today outside of Alonso, you could rightfully argue. Francisco Lindor, 0 for 2 with 2 walks. Great defense today. Alonso, 1 for 4 with the run scored, and thanks to that solo home run opposite field in the top of the 9th. Mark Canha 0 for 3 today with a strikeout. Jeff McNeil 0 for 3 today. Eduardo Escobar 0 for 3. Tommy Pham 0 for 2. Luis Gourmet 0 for 1, pinch hitting late in the game in the 8th inning. Tomas Nido 0 for 2 today with 2 strikeouts. Daniel Vogelbach 1 for 1 with that fly double. Tim LaCastro didn't get an at-bat. Neither did Narvaez. Peterson, Hunter, Curtis were your pitchers. Curtis gave up the the losing run at the end of the day. Guys, that is about going to do it. I appreciate it. And Sean, thank you so much for the upgrade for the membership. I greatly appreciate that. All you guys are members. All that stuff really, really does mean a lot. Thank you so much in advance. Larry says, besides opening day next week at Mets, it's opening day at Brooklyn Cyclones next Friday. Awesome, Larry. Yeah, Brooklyn Cyclones will be fun following them. I intend to follow the Long Island Ducks this year, too, out of the Independent League a little bit, because you got Daniel Murphy playing. We had Murph on the channel last year around Old Timers Day as part of the podcast. That was awesome. Great talking to him. Ruben Tada's on that team. I think Wally Bachman is still the manager, if I'm not mistaken. Pete's home run should have been his previous AB. I agree, Dave, but it is what it is. I'm still happy he got the home run. Just would have been nice, obviously, if they got the dub. And one more time, speaking of the devil, your player of the game is Pete Alonso, 1 for 4 with the solo bomb there on AJ Puck, who is a flame-throwing southpaw. A big fan of his when he was with the A's. Would have loved him as a trade acquisition. And essentially the Marlins got him for nothing for a not prospect, but young player, JJ Bleday, who has yet to really establish himself. So we'll see how he does in Oakland. But guys, that's going to do it. Appreciate you all so much. We'll be back tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then absolute latest Sunday, we'll be back out. But stay tuned. I always post the streams early and let you guys know if we're going live or not. So appreciate the support. And as always, let's go Mets, baby. Time to bounce back and get dub number 2 tomorrow with